The first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the next installment in the MCU's ever-growing and seemingly unending multimedia empire, has just dropped on Disney+, and it's fine. The TV show is the second live-action Marvel series to launch on the platform after WandaVision and focuses on Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie, and Bucky Barnes, Sebastian Stan, as they navigate the legacy of Captain America, all while facing off against a new threat known as the Flag Smashers. Gee, that's subtle. Also, there's Daniel Bruhl's Baron Zemo waiting in the wings somewhere too, but his wider role in the series is unknown as of now. As for episode 1, well, it spends a lot of time establishing where Sam and Bucky are following the events of Avengers Endgame, and there's a heavy emphasis on the individual legacies they're both struggling to reconcile with. Sam doesn't feel as though he's worthy of the mantle bestowed to him by Steve at the end of Endgame, donating it instead to the Captain America exhibit at the Smithsonian at the start of the episode, while Bucky is also struggling to move past the many decades he spent performing war crimes for the Soviet Union, and he's doing it healthily by continuing to hang around people whose relatives he murdered. It's not really healthy at all, is it? It's a lot, and you can tell the series is only just starting to articulate its admittedly nebulous thoughts surrounding the idea of legacy, but it does end on a really intriguing note. As Sam sits in the living room of his sister's house, a member of the Department of Defense reveals that they've gone over both Sam and Steve's wishes for where the shield belongs, and have anointed a new Captain America of their own, who proceeds to give a cheeky wink to the camera after being unveiled. Yes, of course, this new Captain America is actually John Walker, and he's played by Wyatt Russell, son to Hollywood legends Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, but what will his role in the series be, and who is the character really? Let's find out. John Walker was initially introduced as the Super Patriot in 1986's Captain America number 323 by Mark Gruenwald and Paul Neary. He grew up idolizing the military after his brother died in Vietnam, but was never able to attain the war hero status he desperately coveted, and so looked elsewhere to get his thrills after his honorable discharge from the army. Walker eventually gets super soldier powers from a shadowy figure known as the Power Broker, and becomes a corporate-sponsored superhero known as the Super Patriot. He decides to start publicly dissing Captain America for not being patriotic enough, and when Cap decides to no longer take on the mantle after the Commission on Superhuman Activities implements a rule that would force him to abide by the government's own whims and orders, Walker steps in all too willingly to become the new Captain America. Essentially, John Walker was intended as a critique of jingoism and nationalism. He's all too willing to be a government stooge because he doesn't understand that the value of Cap as a symbol transcends any one government or institution. He eventually finds this out the hard way after partaking in some containment-inspired war crimes in South America, later abandoning the Captain America mantle and becoming an anti-hero of sorts under the new identity of US agent. But it wasn't a quick transition. Walker continued to work for the government and was prone to all kinds of violent and angry outbursts, clashing with his teammates on the West Coast Avengers until a pivotal encounter on the Mexico border left his faith in the institutions he was serving fully shaken. From there, Walker actually became a more traditional superhero, working independently of the government and even renewing his membership of the West Coast Avengers, although still being a hero that had plenty of issues to deal with. He was never able to live up to the legacy of Steve Rogers, but as his own hero, he eventually started to make the right decisions after a long and protracted period of trial, trauma, and error. But how will he be used in the MCU? Well, so far, all indications seem to be that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be putting its own twist on the initial storyline where Walker made his comics debut. Episode 1 of the series ends with the DoD unveiling him as the new Captain America, sporting his own red, white, and blue uniform that borrows elements of the US agent outfit seen in the comics. The government's own duplicitousness is also on full display in this episode, as the DoD spokesperson who praised Sam for donating the shield at the beginning seems to be the principal architect of the move to replace Steve with a government-approved Captain America. Trailers for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier have shown Walker's Cap attending public events like sports games where he looks to be winning the public's affection in a semi-dark reflection of the War Bonds tour Steve did back in World War II during the first Avenger. You can expect Walker to do more than just perform military propaganda, however. He's wielding the shield and a firearm, and we also know that the end of the series will see Sam embrace the mantle of Captain America and the shield that accompanies it, meaning that Walker will lose it at some point or another. What is less clear though is whether or not Walker has had his abilities enhanced by any kind of power serum or other method. The Super Soldier Serum perished along with Professor Erskine back in the Second World War, but we know that the governments all over the world have had a history of trying to emulate it in Marvel's comics, always to mixed results, so the same principle could apply here. Beyond that though, it really is too early to tell how the Falcon and the Winter Soldier plans to use the character beyond the conversations surrounding Cap's legacy and patriotism more generally. One would assume that Walker's first port of call will be to take on the Flag Smashers, the new anarchistic group that's been brought to Sam's attention in the very first episode, and it's likely that the series' wider meditations on those aforementioned themes will stem from that conflict as Sam and Bucky attempt to find their own identities in a world without Captain America. What will be interesting to see though as Falcon and Winter Soldier progresses is whether or not John Walker may be used in other projects thereafter. Again, we know that Sam will become the new Captain America and that Bucky will likely continue his own brand of superheroics as the Winter Soldier, but as the comics have shown, there are interesting stories that can be told when a character is forced to reappraise their own worldviews after being presented with new experiences and information. Does the MCU need to have US Agent in a future TV show or movie? No, absolutely not. It's likely still that his entire arc will be resolved in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and won't need to be revisited further down the line. But that being said, the potential is still there for him to maybe become a recurring anti-hero or even villain, depending on how far Marvel Studios plan to go when they riff on the source material throughout this ongoing series. For the time being, however, Walker remains the Falcon and the Winter Soldier's most intriguing prospect. There are all sorts of avenues the series could take the character, whether he does get a redemption arc like his comic self, or whether or not the series doubles down on the tradition of the many evil Captain Americas that have existed over the years, and seeing Falcon and Bucky confront him could make for one heck of a spectacle. Either way, I want to know what you all thought of Falcon and the Winter Soldier's debut episode down in the comments below. Do you think Walker will stick around for the foreseeable future, and do you think he even should? Once you've done that, it would be great if you could like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to What Culture so you don't miss all of our coverage for all the upcoming MCU shows and films. Remember, you can find more content like this in the written word at whatculture.com/TV, and more of me if you would like to on Twitter at @YouandRuinsThings. That's all for now though. Take care, have a great weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye! The Force is with us. What Culture Star Wars is our brand new channel dedicated to all things Star Wars. We'll have all the usual lists, features, and news, plus there'll be ups and downs for all the latest shows and movies, and coverage on Star Wars novels and comics. Subscribe today via whatculture.com/Star Wars or search What Culture Star Wars on YouTube.